Welcome to Getting Real with John Natale. I'm John Natale, your host today for episode 26. Be relentless with this one thing. This topic today, guys, is near and dear to my damn heart because I think this is one thing over 16 years that I have inside of me that I think is a requirement for you to have a lasting, successful career here in real estate. And it's not something that you have to naturally be born with. It is just a skill you have to develop. And if you are relentless with it, you will have success here in real estate. Before we dive in today, I want to take a minute to thank you for listening to this podcast, for watching this podcast. If you could like it, if you could subscribe, if you could rate us 5 stars wherever you are listening, I would be so damn appreciative of you. Our focus here at our entire Natale brand, our entire brand is about redesigning the real estate industry. This podcast is a big, big portion of it. So anything you could do to share this message is so greatly appreciated by me. And if you're interested, if you're in New Jersey, you're looking to grow your business, we have an awesome and dynamic real estate company. It's an independently owned real estate company, Natale Realtors, that I own here at the Shore. If you're in New Jersey and you're looking to grow your business, contact me, set up a meeting below to discuss joining our Natale family. If you're not in New Jersey, if you're outside of our one large state of New Jersey and you're in one of the other 49 and you're looking to grow your business, consider joining our Natale family. Consider joining our Natale coaching organization. We have individual coaching plans. We have group coaching plans. All the information is below. We are now in over 15 states with agents. We have 25 agents in our Natale family, and we are growing ridiculously fast, and we're also growing together. So if you're looking for that environment, if you're looking to grow your personal brand, if you're looking for someone that has a ton of experience in real estate in so many different facets to help you grow your business and help you grow your life, please consider joining our Natale family. All the information is below. You can book an absolutely free one-on-one discovery call with me. Now let's dive into today's subject on what you need to be relentless with if you are to have lasting success in real estate. I cannot overstate this enough. I'm surprised it's taken me 26 episodes to have about this topic, but you have to be relentless about figuring shit out. You have to be relentless at solving problems. And I'm going to go through why that's important and also some different things you can do to become a better problem solver, to be able to figure shit out, and all of those different things, because this is vital. And what I feel like has happened over these last few years, we're filming this in the early part of 2024. Market is still really hard. Interest rates are high. We are coming out of a easier time period to a certain degree. And when I say easier, I don't mean it was easy to be an agent. It's just more people were moving back then, 2020, 2021, and early 2022. We've kind of adjusted to these higher rates. Inventory is way down. Transactions are way down. Things have kind of changed a bit. However, no matter what market you've been in, whether you were in 2008, 2006, 2012, 2015, no matter when you got your start in the markets you've worked since, being able to figure shit out for people is literally, the more shit you can figure out is the higher you get paid. The bigger problems you can solve, the more money you can make, the more impact you can have, the better legacy you can have, the more referrals you get because you helped people with really, really hard problems. And why it's important to have as a skill as a real estate agent is because there's always a goddamn problem. If we're being honest, there's always a timeline miss. There's always a document missing. There is always a seller who doesn't want to move out. There's always a buyer who doesn't want to pay an extra $2,000 over 30 years. There's always a problem and there's always something to be solved. And if you are not great at problem solving, you may have a couple deals here and there, but you will not grow a huge, massive business out of real estate if you cannot solve problems at a very high level. Because there's always a problem. Let's be realistic. If we honestly look at our last 5 deals, which of those 5 did not have any issues? No problems, no extra conversations, literally just, hey, we're going to go look at these 3 houses, kind of like a house owners episode. When does that actually happen for you? We looked at 3 houses, we went out to lunch, we picked one, we put an offer in, they accepted it, went through attorney review, went into escrow, whatever it is in your state. We got to closing. Everything was peachy. It was great. The sellers and buyers loved each other so much. They gave gifts to each other. And it was just the most magical experience ever. Guys, I've been doing this 16 damn years. I can maybe count on one hand out of a shit ton of transactions how many times anything remotely has looked like that. Okay? It doesn't happen. There's always problems. And the bigger the problems, the bigger the solutions have to be, and the better you have to be. I remember, and maybe it's because of the industry in which I came in. You know, I got licensed in 2008. The market was shit. It was terrible. It's kind of like it is now, just on the exact opposite end, right? That was a complete buyer's market. You could put a house up, even if it was perfectly priced, and you could not sell it. Nowadays, you could have a great buyer, and they could be looking for something, and it just doesn't exist, right? We're just on the opposite end of the spectrum, you know, these 15, 16 years later. However, in those years, like in 2009, 2010, 2011, when I was getting my start, 2012, 13, 14, all those years, if you were to sell your house, you most likely were selling to someone who also had to sell their house. And then there was another contingency. And like the amount of dominoes that were needed to get to your final closing, and it could be from other states, it could be from totally different transactions, and all of it was tied together. And if one little thing slipped up somewhere, the whole thing went crashing down. The dominoes didn't fall. And you then were sitting there at the end like, oh crap, we just wasted 4 months on this transaction and it didn't happen. So being able to solve problems in those days, and anybody who listening to this who was around in those days remembers what it was like. And I think it kind of forced it into us to a certain degree, where we literally had to ask a million questions about the buyer of the house to make sure that whatever contingency they had and whatever was going on in their situation, they were going to be able to close. And then also their person was able to close. And somewhere along the line was the first domino. And there was almost every transaction was like that. Whether it was that or you were going through a short sale, and the 9 to 12 month process just to close a $200,000 house. Like people, it's tough right now, but people also get a short-term memory with how hard it was in the early 2010s to get deals together. And the price points were literally, in our area, a quarter of what they are now. Like they've almost quadrupled since then. So you still had to come up with the volume because the price points weren't that good. So if you were able to figure out problems back then, I think the same thing is happening now in our market. And agents are having to figure all this stuff out. Like, how am I going to get a buyer into a home? Like, who am I going to call? Who am I going to reach out to? How am I going to find the off-market property for my buyer? All of those things, like problem solving and figuring shit out for your clients, is directly how you get paid. Because if you find an off-market deal for your client that's looking for a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, and you're able to put it all together, you're going to get paid. And if you don't figure out that situation for them right, and you're just relying what's on the market, you could get paid. But most likely, you're still then going to be competing with 5 or 6 other people. And interest rates are high and prices are high. So it's very hard. So you're literally paid in accordance with being able to figure shit out in really any market, right? But when it's really challenging, it's especially so. And it kind of forces you. And that's why so many agents are giving up. So many agents are quitting the business day in and day out. And whether they leave their license or not, or just keep their license or keep it in referral and go get another job, so many agents are leaving the business. And the reason being is they are unwilling or unable to figure shit out. So you need to be the person that can figure it out, especially in these harder times, guys, because in these harder times is where you make your career. The harder times aren't about making $1 million a year unless, you're already doing so. The harder times are about getting through, figuring out different ways to get business, making enough to get by. So when the market turns a little bit, you're able to then capitalize year by year to make it a little bit easier for yourself and grow very dramatically. I tell people this all the time. You literally have to be relentless with trying to figure out how to get more business right now. Right? Like, where is business coming from? How many more people do I have to reach out to? How many more pieces of content do I have to put out? How much better does my content need to be to actually reach the people I want to reach? And then backtracking it to like, how do I figure out how to do that? Because there is business to be found. People are moving every damn day. We will probably end, even though it's early in the year, 2024 with more transactions than 2023. We'll also end with less agents. So yeah, it's hard right now. It's not easy. However, it's not impossible to find people. We find people every damn day that are looking to do business. And even though there's very limited inventory, we're figuring out how to get them into a home or how to get a seller sold for top dollar. All of these different things we are figuring out. And you need to start really owning in on the skills you're going to need to figure shit out. So the most important thing when it comes to figuring things out, and like honestly, this is 90% of the effort in figuring things out is asking the right questions. If you ask the right questions, you will get enough feedback from people no matter where it is in a transaction, whether it's with your client directly before you meet with them. What are you actually looking for? Does this sound like something you like? Does this investment sound good? If you bought it for this and then it dropped to this, would you care? If you bought it for this and you needed to appreciate to this, is that important to you? If you did this and then that happened, what would you do? Asking every damn question you could possibly ask, people appreciate it because they also feel heard. So asking the right questions before with a client. When you're going into a negotiation, this is the one crazy thing about this housing market and why I think so many agents are going to be out of business is because they literally refuse to even call when putting in an offer. Do you know how easy it is as a buyer's agent sometimes to just call the listing agent and ask what is the seller looking for? And you're the only person that's doing so, not just blindly throwing an offer in. I know this sounds fundamental, guys, and this conversation is a little bit more high level, but pick up the damn phone in a transaction when you're trying to figure things out and call someone. So many just rely on text, email, where you can't decipher tone, anything. How the frig are you supposed to negotiate with someone and get through an inspection phase without hearing their voice or seeing them face to face? I am 34 years old, guys, but damn, I remember 2015 when we wanted to get a deal together. I called that agent and I went to their office or I met them at the seller's home and I negotiated on behalf of my client in front of them because I could read them. And I know that's changed nowadays, best in final. There's only so much you can do, but at least pick up the phone and try to have a conversation. If the agent's an asshole and won't answer you, that's another story. But how many agents, when we have listings, how many agents just blindly send offers and don't even call me to ask what the seller wants? I can't believe it. I literally cannot believe it. And again, if you have an agent that's non-responsive to you, you still have to figure things out. So our process looks like this. Our client's interested in a home. We call, hopefully have a great conversation, put a deal together. If that's not the case, they have multiple offers. We have to do that. We ask what's most important to the seller. It's not about literally just order taking, like the seller said this, so you have to do it. It's then going back to your client saying, hey, we at least got the details from the agent of here's what the seller's ideal offer looks like. And then the buyer says, okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. I can't do that closing date. We have to close by so-and-so, and we can't do this. So then you can then take what the buyer can do. You write up the offer. You say to the agent, you call them again, text them, you email them, whatever. Here's our offer. But I just want to let you know, we're matching you on the 4 of 6 things, but 2 of them, and here's the reason why they can't do that. But hopefully the seller understands it, they need to close in 45 days. They can't wait 60 days because of this X reason. That is figuring shit out for your clients, and that's getting a deal done. That's not being unethical. That's not getting a side deal from somebody. That is literally being a great real estate professional. That is doing your damn job. And so many don't do their job right now. And it is, to some degree, it's okay because they're going to be out of business in the next 2 years. However, if you're listening to this podcast, you want to get better. So doing that whole scenario where you're able to figure things out for clients, again, we are 100% commission-based. If you're not able to figure out what the best offer could be for the seller so you can then report back to the buyer to see what they can do, you're not going to get paid. If you're just going to blindly send an offer, the chances of you getting it are literally just the chance that you are the highest and best offer. Rather than, there might be something that's important to the seller that no one else is offering, but you can offer it and it might be minor to you. So please, guys, I implore you, ask the right questions in all of this. So whether you're dealing with your client before you're working with them, when you're meeting with the seller, so many people are so nervous to ask questions because they're okay, I don't want to screw anything up. And I get that, especially as a newer agent. I feel for you. I really do. However, you need to level up your questions really fast. You need to role play with someone in your office. You need to role play with your best friend. Role play with your spouse. Hey, if you were a seller and I was asking you this, would this be too intrusive? But again, those questions that you ask, the role playing you go down with a client, okay, so say you're looking to buy a house, but you do need to sell your house. Again, not many are taking contingencies. What does this all look like for you? How ideally does this happen for you? Because some might say, you know what? I should sell my house now. I have a sister with an empty house. I'm going to go move there for a little bit. Okay, that sounds like a better solution than trying to put a contingency in, right? You are solving problems by asking the right questions and playing down different scenarios with clients. So I implore you to start looking at the questions you are asking all parties, even down to your vendor partners. Like, hey, mortgage lender, what do you need from me for this to look successful to you? Like, what does our business relationship look like for this to be successful for you? Same thing with your attorney, title company, home inspector, any of the people you work with. You guys should be partners in creating great business relationships and great experience for your clients. Ask them the damn question. What does success in this relationship between you and I look like to you? Ask your clients. At the end of this transaction, what would a successful real estate professional look like for you? So you know what their expectations are. And then you're able to then take whatever their expectations are and solve problems with them. I feel like so many people in this industry are so scared to ask questions in all fronts, whether it's to clients, to vendor partners. I already know way too many are afraid to ask questions during a negotiation, and that dramatically affects the dollars that your clients are paying and or getting in terms of buying versus selling. So many people do a best and final, blindly, don't even see what, they get two offers, they don't even really look at them, they announce best and final. Well, if one of them was cash and at the asking price, and the other one's a mortgage with a contingency 5% down, and it's $100,000 off the asking price, why the hell are you doing a best and final? You need to know how to problem solve. You need to know, okay, I need to maybe leverage up this cash offer if we were hoping for over asking and say to them, hey, you do have the better offer, and the seller has agreed if you go another $5,000, we will accept your offer and we'll put this under contract today. But so many people run to a best and final and don't have a goddamn clue how to negotiate. And it's mostly due from the fear of not being able to ask the right questions. And along with asking the right questions, I'll leave you with this. And I've kind of mentioned it already. You have to just throw a bunch of options at people. Give them all different scenarios in which they can choose what they want to do. What's the most ideal scenario for them? All those different things matter. So if you're able to ask the right questions, you're able to throw all different options at people while you're in a transaction. What if my client did this? If the seller really wants to not fix the back door, what if the buyer agreed to not do that, but then they wanted this fixed? Okay, instead of a closing date of April 15th, what if we close April 7th with a rent back? Okay, I see that you don't want a contingency. What if they increase their offer by $5,000? You're not committing to anything when you're asking questions and throwing options out there. But great agents all do this. And when I'm working with great agents, we just vibe with each other because you're just literally spitballing different solutions to the problem. And it's not about giving anything away. It's not about being unethical. It's not about doing deals behind people's backs. It is strictly the most important thing you have to be relentless about is solving problems and figuring shit out.